Chapter 1. The Illusion of the Observer. Who is watching? You sit down to meditate. You try to follow your breath. And then, suddenly, a question rises from the silence. Who is watching my breath? It sounds like a deep question, a spiritual one. But in Buddhism, this is where many get stuck, because sometimes the most powerful illusion is the one that asks the questions. The Buddha never taught that there was someone sitting inside our heads, pulling the strings. But the way we use language makes it feel like there is. When we say, "I'm thinking," it creates the sense that a thinker must exist. A little me behind the thoughts, deciding what to think. But is that really how the mind works? The Buddha pointed directly to this illusion. He taught that thinking arises, but no thinker is found. Thought is just a mental event. It comes and goes, like wind across a field. There's no tiny person inside your brain doing the thinking. There's just thinking, and then it's gone. Even science supports this. Neuroscientists call it the default mode network, a part of the brain that lights up when we're lost in stories about ourselves. It's active when we're daydreaming, worrying, remembering the past, imagining the future. And it creates the feeling of a stable self. But if you scan the brain, you won't find a soul. Just patterns, just neurons firing, thoughts arising, sensations coming and going. Just like the Buddha said, all phenomena are ownerless. Nothing belongs to a me, not even awareness. But that can feel strange, because awareness does feel present. You are aware right now. You hear this voice. You know what you're feeling. There seems to be someone behind it all. The Buddha often used images, not theories, to point at this. So think of a mirror. A mirror reflects everything that passes in front of it. Your face, the room, the sunlight. But it doesn't hold on to any of it. It doesn't say, "This is my face." It simply reflects. That's what awareness is like. It notices thoughts, feelings, memories. But it doesn't own them. It doesn't cling to them. And it doesn't say, "This is me." In Zen, there's a famous koan that asks, if you drop I, what's left? Not an answer, not a concept, just the sound of the wind, the feeling of breath, the simple presence of this moment. No watcher, no center. But then, why does it feel so real? Why do we keep slipping back into the sense that someone is watching? That's what we need to understand. Not just by thinking about it, but by seeing how this illusion is built, moment by moment. Only then can we begin to let it fall away. Chapter 2. Layers of Awareness. The mind's greatest illusion. You feel a sharp heat rising in your chest. Your hands clench. Maybe your voice tightens. In that moment, the thought appears. I'm angry. It seems obvious. But is it? The Buddha taught that what we call anger is not a thing. It's a process. A swirl of changing elements, heat, tension, rapid thoughts. It's not a solid entity, and certainly not a fixed person. Modern science agrees. When anger flares, cortisol floods the bloodstream, the heart rate spikes, and the brain's threat systems light up. But nowhere in this cascade is a central self orchestrating it. These reactions arise from conditions, just like a match ignites when struck. Still, after the body reacts, something deeper kicks in. A second voice says, I know I'm angry. This is what many people call awareness. It feels like we've stepped outside the emotion, that we're now the one observing it. But have we really? The Buddha explained that this second layer is still part of the mind's activity. It's just another thought, another ripple. The mind observes the anger, labels it, and now believes it has found a higher self, a steady witness behind the storm. But even this knowing is not independent. It too comes and goes. It too depends on causes. It too is not you. René Descartes famously said, "I think, therefore I am." But the Buddha might offer a gentler question. Who is thinking? Instead of assuming an I behind the thought, we're invited to look closer, to see that thoughts arise on their own, based on contact, memory, habit, and vanish the same way. They don't need a thinker to exist. They just happen. Then comes the third layer, the trickiest one of all. A soft inner voice whispers, "I'm watching myself get angry." It feels calm, detached, spiritual. Many seekers stop here, believing they've discovered the true self, the quiet watcher behind it all. But the Buddha pointed deeper. He taught that even this observer is a construction. It feels still, but it moves. It appears solid, but it changes. In the Abhidhamma, Buddhist psychology breaks experience down into micro-moments. Each mental event gives rise to the next, then vanishes. The observer you trust is only the latest ripple, a wave thinking it is the ocean. Just like waves in the sea, some wild, some soft, they all pass. But there's no captain steering them, just water, shaped by wind, current, and moon. In the same way, awareness itself is conditioned by what we see, hear, fear, desire. And the thing we call self is just one of those conditioned moments, mistaken for something enduring. Still, the illusion runs deep. Even when we see through the emotion, the thought, the story, something inside clings to the one who sees. We don't hold the anger. We hold the watcher. We don't want to lose the one behind the curtain. But what if that, too, was just a trick of the mind? The Buddha didn't ask us to believe blindly. He gave us tools, a path, a practice, to observe moment by moment. This is a sensation. This is a thought about the sensation. This is awareness of the thought. And then to ask gently, who knows this? And wait. If we're honest, something surprising happens. The question fades, and no one answers. Just space, just awareness, but no owner. That's why these layers are so subtle. Each one feels like we're getting closer to truth. But unless we see clearly, we just climb from one illusion to another, each more refined than the last. The mind is like an onion. Peel one layer, there's another. But at the core, there's nothing, just openness. And strangely, this nothingness doesn't bring fear. It brings peace. Because when there's no one to protect, there's nothing to defend. Only the natural unfolding of experience, seen clearly, without ownership. And yet, the illusion feels so real. Why? Because the mind still has a few more tricks. Quiet ones, ancient ones, invisible ones. Chapter 3. The Mind's Invisible Traps. Why we cling to a self. The mind is a master illusionist. It doesn't need smoke or mirrors, just time, memory, and a bit of language. And from those raw materials, it builds something we hold tighter than anything else, a sense of self. But none of this happens with our permission. It begins quietly, beneath the surface of our thoughts. While we're busy reacting to life, the mind is already weaving those reactions into a story. Not just any story, but your story, where you're always the central character. Whether you're succeeding or failing, feeling joyful or lost, this character keeps appearing. The Buddha taught that this appearance is one of the mind's most convincing tricks. Neuroscience supports this. The brain collects moments and memories, stitching them together like frames in a film reel. A single frame doesn't move, but when they're played one after another, it looks like a person walking, talking, and growing up. And so we forget. We forget that what seems like a self is just a flickering chain of moments, strung together by the brain to help us survive. That's the first trap, the storyteller trap. The Buddha didn't deny that this story appears, but he reminded us, just because the story is happening doesn't mean it belongs to anyone. Just because it's coherent doesn't make it real in the way we assume. He taught that the story is not who we are. It's just what arises due to conditions, memory, language, habit, and desire. The second trap is even more subtle. It hides in the very words we use every day. When you say, "I'm angry," or "I'm sad," it sounds simple. But underneath, those phrases quietly confirm a belief that there's an I who owns that emotion, that someone is there in control, choosing or suffering. But the Buddha offered a gentle correction. Try saying, "There is anger," or "Sadness is present." The shift is small in words, but vast in experience. This doesn't mean we stop feeling. It means we stop clinging to the idea that someone is behind the feeling, running the show. There's a sutta where the Buddha advises, don't say, "I am suffering." Just recognize, there is suffering. This short teaching opens a door. It frees us from the assumption that pain must belong to a self. When we see that suffering is a process, not a possession, a strange peace enters. We stop taking everything so personally. Even language, then, becomes a veil, soft, familiar, but misleading. It creates a center where none exists. And still there's one more trap, one that catches even those who meditate for years. It's the hope, the subtle hope, that behind all of this, there's someone stable, pure, and untouched. A silent observer, a wise inner presence watching all the chaos. This idea comforts us. It feels like a sanctuary in the storm. But it's just another idea, another layer, another form. Even advanced meditators may fall into it. Watching thoughts rise and fall, they think, "Ah, I am the watcher." But the Buddha pointed out, the watcher is just another event in the mind, just another conditioned moment. No matter how calm or clear, it too is not a self. Zen has a blunt way of warning us here. There's a famous saying, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. It doesn't mean to harm anyone. It means, if you create an idea of the Buddha, even a subtle internal one, you've already strayed from truth. Let go of even that. The Buddha didn't leave us empty-handed. He left us with clarity. He taught that everything we cling to, story, language, and even the watcher, arises due to causes and conditions. Nothing stands alone, nothing owns itself, nothing lasts. So the question isn't, who am I? The real question is, why do we keep asking? What are we trying to protect? What are we afraid to lose? And when those questions fade, what's left? That's what we'll see next. Chapter 4. The Final Truth. There's no one watching. You sit in silence. Thoughts rise, fall, and sometimes swirl. A question appears. Who is noticing all this? That single thought feels like a gateway. But if you look carefully, it's just another ripple. Not a gateway. Not a truth. Just a ripple. So what's left when the ripples settle? Not emptiness, but something much more alive than that. Stillness. Openness. The kind of space that needs nothing to exist. The Buddha described two types of self that people often confuse. The first one is easy to see. It's the little voice in the head saying, "I'm watching," "I'm aware," or even, "I'm free." It sounds wise. It sounds calm. But it's still made of thought, still shaped by past experiences. It still depends on memory, language, and time. This first self is just another wave on the surface, another cloud passing through. It comes and goes, just like any emotion or sensation. The Buddha never said this first self was evil or wrong. He simply showed us that it wasn't real in the way we think. Then comes the second self, and this one is harder to talk about. It's not a self in the usual way. It's the seeing of the first self as just a thought. It's the clear awareness that doesn't cling to anything, not even to being aware. And when this insight arises, something shifts. The whole game changes. You no longer ask, "Who am I?" because the question no longer makes sense. The Buddha used the phrase, "dependent arising," to point to this. He taught that nothing exists independently, including the sense of me. When you look closely, what you find isn't a watcher sitting behind your eyes. You find conditions, arising, passing, patterns, causes, results. That's it. No little controller. No soul behind the curtain. Just movement. Just nature unfolding. And when you stop looking for a fixed center, peace begins to bloom. Because the whole struggle to protect or prove a self disappears. Try this the next time you're sitting quietly. Ask yourself, who is aware? Don't answer it. Just feel how that question appears in the mind, like any other thought. Watch it. Then notice the space before the question, the silence the question came from. Rest there. Not as someone resting. Just rest. Modern neuroscience has something interesting to say here. When people enter this silent, open state, where they stop clinging to the idea of me, a part of the brain called the default mode network starts to quiet down. That's the part that keeps building the story of I. So even from a scientific view, what the Buddha pointed to makes sense. When we let go of I, the brain settles, the body relaxes, and something deeper can be felt. Something wordless. Living like this doesn't mean you forget your name or stop functioning in the world. You still pay your bills. You still brush your teeth. But there's a shift in how you relate to thoughts and emotions. When stress comes, instead of thinking, "Why is this happening to me?" you might gently notice, "This is happening, but it's not mine." It's like the sky watching a storm. It doesn't get wet. The storm passes. The sky remains. Awareness is like that. It doesn't need to control anything. It doesn't belong to anyone. It's not you watching. It's just watching. That's why the Buddha often used the image of a raft. He said the teachings are like a raft to cross the river. But once you've crossed, you don't carry the raft on your back. You don't keep clinging to the idea of a self, not even a pure or enlightened one. You let it go. So when your mind asks again, "Who am I?" maybe you'll smile. Because the question is made of the same stuff as the answers. Impermanent, conditioned, passing. There's no one watching, just watching. And somehow, that's enough. That's freedom.